All right, you guys, welcome back to another episode of the Rebranded Athlete Podcast. This is a special episode, not only because it's the last one of 2022, but I am just thrilled for our guest today. I am for the first time welcoming back a former guest that I've had here on the show. So Josh Copeland is here with me in the house, and we have a lot of history this past year. So I thought, you know what a perfect way to end 2022 and reflect on 2023 as we're going to do in today's episode. So today's a little bit different. We are going to talk about Josh's story, but if you guys really want to know more deeply about his story, as I said, he's already been a guest on the show. Actually, episode number 19, Josh, is when you were on here, and this is currently number 63. So you have to go back in the archives a little bit, but
hats off to you. You've been working.
I've been working hard here. Yeah, but welcome to the show, Josh. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing great. Thank you for having me back. I love everything you're doing. I love the show support. So yeah, it was a no-brainer when you asked me to come back on. To finish out the year. I'm excited to do it. So I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Thanks, Josh. And those of you who have been following us and watching us, this is probably like a highlight here, because if you've watched our Instagram lives that we started earlier this year, Josh and I were on every week. Man, I can't even remember how many episodes we got in. I want to say it was like over 35 before we backed off a little bit and narrowed our focus and other things.
Yeah, it was every week, but it was good though. I love talking to you. Had great conversation, so it was definitely great.
Yeah, always easy to talk to you, and you have so much value that you bring each and every time. And so I want to just kind of highlight a little bit about your background before we get started. So for everybody that knows Josh or you don't, Josh is a former D1 football player for the University of Buffalo, and he, like many athletes, struggled with the transition to life after sports. And if you've had the opportunity to listen to his story before, it's just phenomenal to see what he's overcome. He resorted to alcohol, drugs, all kinds of things after the game, like many athletes do. And to see what he does now with his work with Learn to Cope, which he's the CEO and founder of, and he's taken his show on the road. He's nationally known as a speaker now. I see maybe in 2023, Josh, it might be international. I think that might be on your.
Listen, I accept it. If that's where we going, then we going. So no,
Yeah. Yeah, but educating athletes and just people in general on mental health. And I think it's such a timely thing right now, with so many things going on in the world. We've seen so many athletes this past year, unfortunately, that have taken their lives. People who have been spotlighted, even celebrities. Before we hit record, we were just briefly talking about Twitch beforehand, but it's just something that needs to bring so much awareness to the world. And I think it's incredible the work that you've been doing, Josh. And I'll let you take it from there. I know I highlighted a couple things, but if you want to let people know, who else you are, what else you're up to, and we'll take it from there.
Oh no, thank you. Yeah, no, you kind of touched on everything. I'm a former athlete, battled depression and anxiety, kind of while I was playing, and then when I got done playing, I did not know I had a difficult time transitioning to life after sports, and so fell into a deep depression, started abusing alcohol and other things, as Sarah mentioned, and kind of slowly found my way back, and now I really set out to help athletes. I started learning to cope in 2017. It was Christmas Day, 2017, actually.
So
wow. Yeah, so coming up on the anniversary. But it was the sole focus started out to just help athletes transition and start conversations about mental health. And now it's kind of evolved into other things, which is definitely a great, and helps me out as well to share the message. But yeah, I do motivational speaking, and I speak to schools, athletes, companies, different things just about mental health, self-care, and things like that. So that's what I do. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I got a 2.5-year-old daughter. So this is going to be great Christmas. So just looking forward to all the things that come.
Yeah, that's great. And I didn't realize. So 2017 is when you actually got this started. So what a perfect time to come on and talk about it. Like, man, the universe is aligning today.
Yes, it works out. Yep, Christmas Day 2017. I had in November 2017, I went to a conference for my job, and I posted a 10-minute video on Facebook, and it got like 8 to 10,000 views, like over like a month.
Wow.
depression and things. And then, so that kind of led to different conversations. So yeah, December 25th, 2017, I was like, you know what, Christmas present to myself. Let me make this a business and LLC, and then go about my day.
Good for you, Josh. And what a time to have an anniversary. And I guess you'll never forget it because it's gonna be around Christmas time every
Right,
year.
right.
So
Yeah.
nice. That's great. Well, thanks for sharing your story a little bit with us. Again, those of you who are just joining right now, feel free to engage in the conversation with Josh and I today. We're going to be doing a lot of reflecting, and we want you guys to do some reflection with us too. We're going to post some questions here and really just talk about what we've learned this year within our personal lives, our business, because really when you're an entrepreneur, and just as you are as an athlete as well, it goes hand in hand. So what you do on the court really affects how you perform in your life. And the same thing as an entrepreneur, how you show up every day as a business owner ties into how you are as a person as well too. So feel free to engage. And again, if you want to go back to Josh's story, that's episode 19. It's ready for you. So after the live today, you can jump in on that. And yeah, so you ready, Josh, to dive in?
Yeah, do it. Let's do it.
All right. So I'm going to post some questions here too. Really, like, the whole point of this, and I think even as athletes, is we have to give ourselves the opportunity to reflect on our performance, look at the stats, see what's there so that we know where we can make improvements on our plays for, the following season or off season or whatnot. And this is a prime time, I think, when everybody really starts, pushing things as much as they can to really finish strong during the year and then start the next year strong. So let's talk about this past year in 2022. So name a time when you had to be brave and step out of your comfort zone.
Um, Actually, it was not too long ago. The most recent one, I spoke for a dialysis technician recognition week, which I was not familiar with that whole world. And it was extremely out of my comfort zone and things because I was unfamiliar with the terminology and I didn't know if I could connect with who I was speaking with. So that was a time it happened, I think in October. Um, so it was kind of like spur of the moment. So I spoke at a Rotary Club, the Rotary Club of Dayton on a Monday. On a Wednesday, I met with this lady at 8 a.m. And then later that day, she said, "Hey, can you speak for 10 minutes here in about an hour?" On a live webinar that was going out to the whole. I was like, "Oh shoot,
No
whoa."
prep time.
No prep. I mean, like very little prep time. I was like, sure. So I went on and sometimes when you're the most uncomfortable, just like in sports, right? When you're the most uncomfortable, that's when you have the most growth. So I learned a lot about myself and I learned a lot about how to make the message like transcend different demographics and different, businesses and things. And so that was definitely a uncomfortable time, but it worked out very, very well for me.
Yeah, and it happens in the game too, right? Or we're not expecting
100%.
to have
100%.
to switch directions, or how about when you're not expecting to go in the game because your coach had pulled you out, and then they tell you all of a sudden get back in the game.
Yes, yes. You know how like the game goes. You kind of get in the flow of things. You kind of get
Right.
rhythm of it. You kind of understand the tempo. So when you kind of get pulled and make a mistake or something, or it's your time to take a breather, and then you're not expecting to go back, and you're like, oh shoot, I gotta like
Yeah.
snap back to this and like fall right in line. So it works.
Yeah. Eyes are all wide and
Yeah.
everything. You weren't expecting to go in,
You're
and
like, hold
yeah.
on, like I love to go in, but dang, you could have like told me like 2 seconds ago to get ready. So,
That's so funny. Oh yeah.
mhm,
Well, that's great. I'm glad you were able to adjust and, trust your training, right? I think that's where it comes back to. So,
exactly.
all right. So on that note, I'll talk about mine.
Yes.
So this one's interesting because it doesn't have anything to do with rebranded athletes. So this year, as you know, and some of you who are listening may know as well, that I started some other businesses. I started a mobile bartending business with my husband this year, which has been amazing. We were actually at a private event, bartending. Everybody had gotten their drinks and so forth, and it was dinner time, and everybody had sat down at their seats. And mind you, it was a pretty big party. It was about 150 people for somebody who was just retiring. And so this guy came up to the bar and he was walking quickly, and I could tell that he needed something to drink. And so I he kind of made the gesture with his hand like he needed something, and I was looking around for water. We didn't have water at the bar. There was actually a water station that was on the other side. And so I just reached down and I gave him my water because I could tell he needed water immediately. And so he went to go and take a drink. And then what I noticed is that the water wasn't going down. It was actually coming out of his mouth. And so immediately I was like, oh my God, this guy is choking. So I go around the bar, and again, there's like 150 people here. Nobody's really noticing because we're in the back of the party. And I'm looking around at first, and I was like, oh my God, somebody's going to have to save this guy. Like, they're going to have to do the Heimlich. And I look around and there's nobody else. And so in that moment, I was like, I have to save him. So I go around this bar. This guy is like 6'3", like a big guy. And I just go immediately back to my training that I had when I was a coach. And I had never done the Heimlich before, but in that moment, I did whatever I had to do. I took one pump and out came the food. And the guy was so grateful because he was starting to not be able to, breathe at all. And come to find out, Josh, that this guy was a doctor that I ended up saving. So I saved a doctor's life this year. Like, craziest thing. but the point of it, like, more than just like being able to save somebody's life, because I think that's like it's like the most incredible gift I think you can give to anybody, right, in that moment in time. And like, why me? Because this place was like crawling with other physicians, okay, mind you, and the bartender's the one that saved that person's life. But what it goes back to is getting out of your comfort zone, because in that moment I had self-doubt because I had never done it before, although I had the training. But I had to go and instead trust my training and trust myself. And I think the biggest like life and business lesson that I learned in that moment was that no matter what, and when I have that self-doubt creep in with myself, I need to just trust myself and go with the process and see what happens. So
that's an amazing story. Yeah, you saved a doctor's life.
I saved a doctor's life. I don't think I told you that story this year.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. But yeah, that's so phenomenal. But yeah, you was in, and that's just like sports. Sometimes you're in the right place at the right time.
Right.
And numbers called, and just because you haven't done something doesn't mean you can't. Right. And I think that your story is the perfect example. You had the training, you had every attribute and the capability of doing that. You just haven't had the opportunity to prove it, and you haven't had the opportunity to do so. So that's just like a sports. But yeah, that's phenomenal. I'm so I bet he was so happy.
Oh, he was a poor guy. He was, crying, and I was just like, and it was one of those things, and it's just like in the game too, where it was like, okay, that thing happened, and I had to get ready and move on to the next play. So I went inside, washed my hands, and I remember in the bathroom, I was like, oh my God, did that just happen? And then I went back out and went right back to my job, and that's, as athletes, and especially elite athletes, I think that's the mindset that we have, is that we're able to deal with a difficult situation, but then also see, okay, like, I need to just keep going. Like, this was one experience, and I learned from it and keep going. So,
for sure, that's amazing.
Yeah, so don't worry, Josh, I got your back if you and I are ever in person. Oh man. So thinking about like your personal growth. So where do you think you personally grew the most this year?
Oh wow, I've learned so much, and I had a lot of failures and mistakes and redirections, and I mean, I've grown in every aspect, personally, spiritually, emotionally, and business. Um, I think for me, the biggest growth and the biggest thing that I recognize is how important it is to keep pushing, how important it is
I love that.
to keep trying, and how important it is to not give up. And no matter how, and I know it's like cliche, right? As everybody says, well, just push and fight through. But when you're at the moment when you're like, man, this has been a month and I've been trying something, I'm not getting anywhere. I'm still, I still got to put 115, 110%, 100% in, and I'm not getting the results that I think I should right away. That's when it's tough to be like, you know what? Because there's many times I was looking at my wife and I was like, listen, they hiring down the street. You know what I'm saying? I was like, they are hiring down the street. So you get in those days. So for me, the biggest growth came like knowing that I can push through even when all odds are against me, and even when like it's very, very dark and it doesn't seem like there's an end to the struggle, I can still push through, and then you see light at the end of the tunnel.
I love that. And I love how you touched on, especially, they're hiring down the street, because I think every entrepreneur and business owner like goes through that. There are times, and my husband Annie and I were just talking about that too. I was like, I know when I'm starting to get uncomfortable, because then I start looking for jobs, because it's the easy way out. It really is.
It is, yeah. And you're like, man, I left a comfortable job, making decent money, and like life. I'm like, and it's tough because you're like, as when you start your own business and you're going through life, like you purposely do that, right? You purposely
Right.
remove yourself and put yourself through certain things, but it's the growth and it's the reward afterwards that keep you going. So yeah, now that's it's real life.
It is. It is. And definitely I'd see, like, even for myself this year personally, like my mindset has been a huge shift.
Mhm.
And a lot of that I think goes back to like earlier in the year I was dealing, I think you knew about this too, like the chronic pain that I was going
Yeah.
through. It was like a 10-month journey for me to like get out of that. And I had to do a lot of the mindset work, because there's so much connected with your mind and body. And I was letting my mind get the best of me, even though, yes, like the feelings I was feeling were real, and the chronic pain and all that, but there's so much to your mindset when it comes to having to overcome obstacles and struggles like that, and to get yourself on the right track. So putting in the
Sure.
work, I mean, most days, I wouldn't say every single day, like I meditate, but I would say 90% of the time this year, like I was able to do that. And it really helped me to like get grounded, because it's different when you're going from an environment where you have a lot of people around you and you're surrounded by like that day-to-day type thing as you do see in
Mhm.
corporate life. And then you go to, as you can see, like I'm here by myself.
Right.
So it's like
Right.
being able to surround yourself with people. And I think that's, part of the great part of being an online entrepreneur, is that there's so many communities and opportunities to meet people virtually, but then you also eventually get to meet people in person. And then even within your community, like for you, it sounds like you've been able to tap into your local community as well, with the business that you're doing online. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're so right. And I think, obviously everything is, especially after the pandemic, everything is like online central and,
Yeah.
and Zoom calls and people. But now it's like I can connect. So I've done a lot with local schools in the area, local high schools, and talking to them about diversity and inclusion and mental health and taking care of themselves. So it's able to expand past. But yeah, I mean, the social media, as you know, connects people who would
Mhm.
maybe never be in contact with each other before. So it makes it easier to streamline those things.
Nice, yeah. And kind of on that line again, I'll take this one first, but
Yeah.
like thinking about things that worked and what didn't work. And
Mm.
let's think about like business wise right now, right? Like within your business. So I would say for mine, like being consistent, and what was difficult is that I had Rebranded Athlete, but then I also began the bartending business. And then I also did like online business management too. So I really have like three things going. And it was hard for me to really spread myself, so thin. So it was being consistent, and then also prioritizing for me. So sometimes, yes, Rebranded Athlete, and maybe you guys kind of saw like through the year, there were some times where it was dimmer than others. Like right now, it's a little bit, a little bit more light than what
Yeah.
I've had before. But I think that's also what happens too. Is like there's other opportunities that come up, and if we continue to still have that same mindset as athletes, where no, I'm just going to stick to my sport, right? Then I'm only going to have opportunities within that arena, and maybe not
Right.
other places. So I think that's kind of where I've grown this year, is being able to have other opportunities come up and not shy away from it, because I'm not just saying, oh no, I'm just going to do Rebranded Athlete. Like when other things come up, having those possibilities. And I think for me, like the things that didn't work for me, or number one, overthinking, like, how can I do all of this? What is it that people really want to hear? And a lot of times it's like, it's out there already. And I think sometimes we get so caught up in like, the way that I feel and what I think athletes and people want to hear rather than really hearing what's going on outside. And what I think was a testament to that this year was when we did our Instagram lives and we did polls and things to see what people wanted us to talk about. And, we're always thinking it's what transition work, right?
Right.
And really people want to hear about mental health. And they were so curious about our businesses, Josh. Like every single time I post something on there, the polls would say like they wanted to hear about, what our business was like and what we were doing. So I think also, evaluating that and seeing as you go along, like don't wait until the end of the year to really think about what's working and what's not. Like have those checkpoints along the way so that you don't miss out on opportunities that you could have taken throughout the year. Yeah.
No, I love that. I love that. I think consistency is the big part. I think no matter what you're doing, and just like in sports, right? It's the same thing. You got to be consistent. You have to show up and you have to put the work in every single day. And then when it's your time to execute, when your number is called on, you have to rely, just like you did when you saved the guy's life, you have to rely on your training. And for me, it's along the same lines. Like I was trying to do so many different things. And that's the thing about this life. Like you have the freedom to do whatever you want. So it's like, I can do this, I can do that, I can do this, and I can connect it all. And then, but I realized like I'm the only one that's doing this. So I got to be the social media manager. I got to do my website. I have to make these calls. I have to do this. So like, and then each business, I have to do it all for each business. So each avenue. So for me, one thing that really I had to learn was to kind of minimize and like subtract so I can grow. And what I mean by that is I had to like streamline my focus and narrow it in because with my speaking, I was like, yes, I can speak to anybody, everybody. Let me just call these people. And I was really getting nowhere for about a year and a half. And then this summer, I really streamlined it to focus on one specific area. And then it kind of exploded that way. So it was kind of weird. I did it backwards. But it was part of the consistency. And you're right. I didn't wait till the end of the year till this time to be like, oh well, let me see what I did wrong. Throughout the year, it was constantly like reevaluating. It's like, hey, this is not working, or I'm not getting anywhere with this. Is there a different way I can do it? You know what I mean? And the not quitting as a like, I always tell myself, I was like, I just wasn't able to do it that way. That doesn't mean I can't do it. Right. And so that's what I always tell whenever I run to a roadblock is like, I just wasn't able to do it that way. There are 1,000 different ways to get this done. So let me explore those ways. So that was for me was, consistency as well. And then like learning to redirect when you need to in order to, and sometimes, like I said, you need to subtract so you can multiply.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a hard call sometimes, because especially if there's something that you've done and you've put so much time and effort and energy into it. And it's just like, okay, how do I let that go? And I think that's what I've struggled with too. And obviously I've got 3 balls in the air. I got 3 different things going, but I enjoy them so much. And I think also it's like, I have the freedom to do it now because I'm not like just bound to a 9 to 5 or a corporate job. Like there's ways of doing it. Yeah. And even for you, Josh, like I've seen so much growth in you this year, like especially with your social presence and your social media. And and if it's a 1-man band that you're doing all that with, like kudos to you. Cause I know how hard it is to keep up everything.
I appreciate that. Yeah. And you had a big part in that. Like I told you this, last week when we was talking on the phone, like you're inspiration. You do a lot of things and I see how, professional everything is and how it's all on brand. So I watch those things so different people that like I admire and respect and try to pick up on little things.
Thanks,
and
then
Josh. No problem. And we had a conversation and you kind of helped me out with planning on social media posts. So it's like the community like that you develop and like evolve with. So you're building a team. And just like sports, your team helps you strive and do things a little bit better than what you already were doing. So I was able to finally like implement some of those things and have patience to kind of see it all through, even when it doesn't look like it's going to go the way I want it to go.
Right. Yeah. And it takes time. And I think that's the thing. It's like we see, things on social media and all these people who are just, we think because all we see is the highlights, right? That they got there overnight. And that's not how it happens. Just like, your success as an athlete, like you didn't go from just picking up the football to being a D1 player,
Right.
overnight. Like there's a lot of work and rep that happens behind the scenes that people aren't seeing. And so also giving ourselves the opportunity to be like, okay, like even for me, I'm like, all right, I left my job like a year and a half ago. Like I'm okay.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I'm exactly where I need to be in this moment. And I'm
Yeah.
just getting started,
Right.
and like bringing all that back to light.
For sure. For
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and speaking about like really narrowing in our focus and not waiting till the end of the year. So I also want to talk about maybe a book that you read, and I want to share one that I actually just picked up maybe about 2 months ago. But I'll bring it up here on the screen. But it's called The 12-Week Year for those of you guys who are seeing us on screen right
Yeah.
now.
I'm about to bring up mine on you, but go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So it's from Brian Moran, and it's basically what I love about this book is written about a decade ago, but it's really, really valid. And I think especially for the athlete mindset is because instead of us like having this plan for 12 months and being like the predictor of what's going to happen in the next 365 days, instead of focusing on that and doing the quarter system, it's really your year is determined in 12 weeks. And so just like right now, at the end of the year, everybody's hustling, especially if you're, your own business owner, you're trying to get as many sales and things as you can before the end of the year to close out strong so that bam, you're ready to go for the new year. And so there's so much urgency in that. And even when I worked in the school sites, June was like December to everybody else. June was like, we have got to get everything we didn't get accomplished done in this month before we go on vacation. So that amount of urgency, if you restructure how you think about the year, instead of waiting 52 weeks to see what your outcome and results are, you start blocking everything into 12 weeks. And so yeah, I think you'll like it, Josh. They got an audiobook for it as well. And those of you guys who are listening, another little nugget, if you have a library card to your local library, most libraries now have apps that have digital versions of the book on it. So if you're constantly buying, books from Audible, all that type of stuff, check out your local library because you can get free books to actually listen to through Audible on there. And 12-Week Year is actually one of them that I was able to listen to for free. Yeah.
Oh, that's phenomenal. Yeah, I'll definitely do that. Yeah, I'm at the library all the time just I use the office space. But yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Great. I love that. So I'll definitely be checking that out. For me, it was two. One was obstacles. The obstacle is the way, and that's by Ryan Holiday. I love that one. It just talks about how you view adversity and turning adversity to your advantage and just shifting your mindset with that. I love that one. And then the second one that really changed how I kind of go about things is questions are the answers.
Oh, I
And
haven't heard of that.
that is by Hal Gregerson.
Okay.
And he just and it's like kind of it's techie. He's a guy and he interviewed a lot of these guys who started like these big tech companies, and he just goes into how sometimes and what I got from it is not necessarily what you ask, is how you ask it, right? And
Right.
like
Yeah.
reframing the question to get the answer, but it's a lot about how you phrase the question and how you go about what information you're trying to get out of it. And so I was really intentional with asking the right questions to get the answer I'm looking for. And it's
I
not
love
like
that.
manipulating, but it's just more like being direct. You know what I mean? It's like, okay,
Right.
how if this is the answer I want to get or this is the information I want to know, how can I ask it in the most direct way to get to streamline it? So that's kind of what I got. So those are two books that really kind of changed my mindset this year.
I'm adding those to my list, and I will be at the library next week. So
And yeah. And I listen to them I listen to them too, so they have that version.
yeah, no, that's great. And honestly, like the Audible and just being able to listen to books has opened up so many opportunities for me because I have such a hard time. I will literally start a book, like if I'm physically reading one, and I'll only get halfway and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So I love listening to it when I'm walking, sometimes even working out too.
Yeah.
As crazy as that sounds, but yeah.
Yeah, I listen to them all the time. Sometimes, unless I'm with my daughter, I don't really listen to music in the car. I
Mhm.
listen to all audiobooks and things like that, and like podcasts. And so that's kind of what I do. But yeah, those are the two books that kind of shaped it for me.
Yeah, no, that I love it. So thanks for those recommendations. Let's see. Next question. What do you wish you had done this year? Like, is there something that you're
Ooh.
like, oh man, I should have done that?
I wish I would have reevaluated sooner. And
Mm,
to summertime to do it. I waited until like July-ish, to kind of rebrand and rethink things. But I
mhm.
have been wanting to do it and been running to like a wall with certain things since like March, right? And I love how you talked about the 12-week year, because I think that if I would have had that mindset of like, all right, let me start this a little sooner and like let me redirect a little sooner, I would have been able to get a little bit further. But I'm still not upset about it because like it's
Right.
helped me and I learned about it. But if I had the answer, it'd be kind of like rebranding and like redirecting sooner.
Yeah.
Yeah. What
And
about you?
I would say for me, definitely, especially because I didn't have like laser focus, I think on Rebranded Athlete in particular, like I wish I would have had more opportunities for clients. Like I really wasn't putting it out there, like other than just the podcast and the things I was doing. And then also, universities, trying to knock on those doors to see
Yeah.
if it's a possibility. But I really didn't put my focus in that this year. And I miss it because last year, I had other opportunities with clients that I worked with. And this year it was more of just like talking about life after sports and the awareness. But there's something different when you're able to work with clients and, have more of that one-on-one, really kind of conversations with them and just to help people out. Cause, I know there's tons of athletes out there that need the help and support, but it's oftentimes difficult, especially with the work that we do, because, and I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but it's, being able to let them know that this is actually something that's going to help propel them,
Yes.
into this next phase of their life, instead of like, oh, I'll figure it out later, or, oh yeah, I have a plan, but there's a lot of things you got to work on about yourself as you transition away. As we all know, those of us who've gone through the transition know how difficult that can be. And if you don't have somebody to at least just talk to about that, it'll come up later,
Yeah.
as we know.
Definitely. Definitely. No, I love that. I think yeah. Anytime you can like really focus and narrow in on what your mission is, and that's kind of like I know we're gonna get to it later, but that's kind of like my goal for 2023 is to kind of like be very intentional. So
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah, I love that word. That's yeah. When we get into that too, I had
Yeah.
that written down for later.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah. What do you think was your greatest accomplishment this year?
Oh, um, well, highlight of mine, I was able to speak for the mayor of Dayton. I've known him for a little bit, and the mayor of our city put on a youth team conference, and I was the keynote for that.
Oh,
So
nice.
that I was kind of happy about, and that was something that I was it's kind of was seeing the hard work kind of now starting to kind of like pay off, and I was referred, even though I've known him for a while, I was still referred to him by a couple different people and different, the committee and things. So that was something I was really really excited about to get that gig.
That's cool. And did it open up more opportunities for you, or at least,
It did.
got
It did.
another network, another
Yeah,
web?
yeah, yeah. Just added on with because I mean like they had all the those public schools that were in the area there. So it's like 300, select few, but it was like 300 high school kids. But just the community members who volunteered, the like just the different offices that was there kind of hurt me. So I was able to really network and connect with them and kind of, looking forward to hopefully doing some professional development with them, those companies, coming around next year.
That's great. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah. What
Yeah.
about you? What's
Man,
what's that you
I
that
have so many things to be grateful for this year. I do. It's
Mhm.
just like, man, I really narrow it in on one. But I would say the greatest thing I accomplished was getting out of my comfort zone and being able
Mhm.
to start other things too, and
Mhm.
not just the one like I talked about earlier. And
Yeah.
the one that caught me off guard, I know Josh, you and I talked about this, was the bar business. And it's so, I think it's just so
Yeah.
ironic. It goes back to my story of, that's the first job I had out of college college when I didn't graduate and I was trying to figure out my life during my transition. And I've now gone back to that like full circle, and I've seen it as something that, number one, brings me joy. I love doing
Yeah.
it. There's so much opportunity for growth. The second thing, I get to do it with my husband, which I think is
That's
awesome. You know, if you're
amazing.
able
Yeah.
to do something with your partner. And then
Mhm.
the other thing is like how that business has now like crossed over even with Rebranded Athlete that I'm doing, because even just last week, Athlete Soul had their LA chapter, the opening networking session for that. And I
Mhm.
was able to be there, you know, representing Rebranded Athlete, and got to meet people that I have not been able to talk to in person. They're, you know, my virtual friends, and being able to speak with them that way. But then also having opportunities open up because I have this bartending business. So, you know, I think that's definitely my greatest accomplishment, was getting out of my comfort zone and being willing to try something completely different. And yeah, I'm sure people probably thought I lost my mind this year with with, you know, I got Rebranded Athlete going, and then OBM slash
Yeah.
podcasting strategy, where I've also been fortunate with that too. I've helped a few clients already this year start their podcast. I'm really excited to see them come to fruition here in the early year. And I think that's what it's all about. You know, it's like the things that I've learned, like being able to share that with other people and helping them grow. And I'm constantly learning, like every single day.
Mm.
I think I've had so much growth in myself individually this past year than I have probably in a decade. Like just self growth, you know, not taking courses and doing things, but so
Mhm.
much me as a person, like growing and doing. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, I absolutely love that. Sorry, I was posting this on Facebook, so I was sharing it, so that's why I was like,
Oh no, it's all good. See, look at you. You got your
yeah, I was
social
sharing
media
it.
guy right there.
Yeah, sharing it.
Yeah.
No, I love that. I definitely love, and I love how it comes full circle.
Yeah.
You know, you started it, you know, after college, and now you're doing that again. So it's amazing.
Thanks. All right,
Mm.
let's talk one more question about this year, and then we're going to start talking about next. So,
Sure.
what's a new skill you learned this year, Josh? I know there's probably many things, but what's a new skill that you
Oh,
picked up?
trying to do social media.
No.
That is something that I am awful at. Even though I'm millennial, I don't know much about it, and I didn't know much about it, and I kind of refused to do it for a while, trying to be out of being like stubborn and like
Hmm.
not like I'm not going to do it and no. And then once I really saw how beneficial it could be for the business and uh, how easy it is in free marketing, if you will, and branding. So I had to really do a deep dive and go down a real dark rabbit hole about social media. And so I would say that's one skill that I learned how, and I'm like barely scratching the surface of it. So it's like I was way down in the basement. Now I'm kind of like at your level.
Well,
So that
yeah,
was something.
it's an evolving skill. There's always, and that's the thing about running your own business. There's always something new to learn,
Yes,
or things that you have to learn on the fly because you got to figure it out.
right, for sure.
Yeah. And for me, like the back end of the business, that's what I really learned a lot this year, especially because
Okay.
now I'm an online business manager. I do OBM stuff for people in the back end of their business, but um Dubsado was something that I had always wanted to learn, and it was always complicated. So that's, those of you who don't know what that is, it's a CRM, which is a customer relationship management tool in your business that really helps you, if you're a business owner, to automate things. So if I have people, for example, I'll use the bar business because I use that for it. If somebody's inquiring about an event, they're able to fill out a form, and then I have automated emails and things that go out to them. So instead of like me doing it all the time, I have it all timed out so that there's a few stops along the way that I put in stuff and customize it, and then the computer does it for me. So it's like having a virtual assistant, but not really having one. Yeah. Oh, you still there, Josh? Uh-oh, we may have lost him, you guys. Give us just a second. I'm like, man, is it my Wi-Fi or his? So those of you guys just joining us, we've been talking about our reflections. I'm going to see if I can get Josh back up here in just a couple of minutes. And if not, I will have to wrap up the episode myself. But let's see if he comes back on. All right, Josh, you there? Let's see. This is the beauty of live shows, you guys. You never know what's going to happen. This is actually what you see from behind the scenes when we actually do the recordings, not live. And as you can tell, we've lost Josh, but I'm sure he will be back. And sometimes you just got to roll with things. That's what happens in life. And hopefully he'll get an internet connection. But if not, I'll keep going. So I haven't seen any questions or comments come in. Again, if you guys have anything that you want to add to the conversation, we've just been wrapping up what we've learned about 2022 and we're taking it into 2023 next, which is what I was really excited to talk to Josh about. So hopefully he can come back here in the next few minutes. But even for yourself, I want you to think about going into this next year, because a lot of times we put so much on ourselves to like, yeah, I'm going to do all these things this next year and it's going to be the greatest year ever. And I think a lot of times we kind of overestimate like what can be done within just that 1 year as opposed to taking it into chunks. So like I talked to you guys a little bit earlier about that 12-week yearbook that I've just been reading. And I think it really gives an insight to how you can be more efficient with your time and really narrow in on your focus on how you can accomplish things in a shorter amount of time. Because if we wait until the end of the year to really evaluate and see what worked and didn't work, it may be too late to make adjustments. And a lot of times people forget what their goals are. Even from the beginning of the year. For myself, as I've been doing my reflecting, I actually had to go back to some of my journals that I had at the beginning because I kind of lost sight of what my overall focus was, because I just started being and just started doing things and didn't really have like a good concrete plan with that. So that's something I'm going to be working on for next year, getting better on that. Let me see if he's trying to contact me. Nope. Just want to make sure he's not trying to come through. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and move on to, next year, 2023, and really let's talk about Rebranded Athlete and moving forward. So I'm looking to definitely make more connections with athletes next year. I think that's going to be the forefront of one of my goals, but also continuing to grow as a person. Like I talked about on here with Josh, I've grown so much in the last year that I feel like I can continually keep going with that if I dedicate it to, focusing on myself and making sure that I'm taken care of so that I can show up my best self for everybody each and every day. And then also my word for next year, I was going to ask Josh what his was. So my word is intentional. And that meaning no matter what I'm doing, whether it's work related, if it's my personal life, even if I'm just getting on my phone and going on social media, like I have intention behind it and I'm being more purposeful with my time so that I can maximize and really get to my goals and everything that I want to do. And a big reminder that as I'm going into 2023, that things don't happen overnight. I have to look back, and I look a lot of times through my phone because I've either taken screenshots or pictures, different things, and how far I've come. And not just me, but I think the community that I've surrounded myself with, especially for my, this community that we built with Josh, with lots of other athlete transition coaches. There's been a lot of things that we've been able to accomplish because we've been at this together. So I hope for you guys too, as you're going through this next year, taking that time to reflect on everything that you've accomplished and where you're going for now. And I think Josh is back and going to join us. I'm going to bring him up.
Hey, sorry, I don't know what that was. So I had to step outside because it wasn't connecting to nothing. So I was listening to it on Facebook and I couldn't even connect on Facebook. So I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So I was hearing what you're saying. Hopefully you can see me.
Oh, yeah, we can see you now. No
Okay,
worries, Josh.
perfect.
I was like, you know what? If he's not here, I'm going to wrap it up. But I'm glad you
Yeah.
came back.
Yeah, no, so I real quick, I can give you, because I want to be, respectful of your time, Sarah. I
Yeah,
truly appreciate you, and thank you for being flexible.
of
Sorry,
course.
y'all, technology is crazy.
The beauty of
And
a live show. They're
yeah,
seeing exactly behind the scenes right now.
yeah, and it didn't give no warning. It didn't say internet is bad. It just kind of shut off. So, but no, so I can give you my goals and things for 2023, just kind
I'd
of
love
real
to hear
quick.
him.
Yeah, sum it up. I want to be intentional with my execution. That's my whole goal for 2023, is that to build off the things that I learned and the growth that I had and start executing on those things. And really starting to execute and being intentional about it. So I'm not just kind of doing things just to do them anymore. I kind of have a direction. I kind of know what works, and constantly reevaluating and like not waiting 6-7 months to do it. Like constantly, I love that 12-week year. Like every so often, just reevaluating where I'm at, if I'm on track for my goals. So that's really my thing. I want to be intentional with my execution for all the 20. That's my only goal. I don't know where it's going to take me, but I think if I can do that in every aspect, I will be successful. Just being intentional with my planning, being intentional with my execution, being intentional with just what I set out to do.
I love that you and I had we did not, just so you guys know, we did not talk about this
No,
before
we
we
really
hit record at all. But Josh and I have the same focus for next year. Talk about being in alignment with the people who you surround yourself by, you know?
100%. That helps you out. But yeah, no, that's so funny because as you all see, I couldn't get on. So it was like I was scrambling to do that. So no, that works out. But yeah, that's my only goal. So I think if you do that and you're consistent every day, you have no choice but to be successful.
Absolutely. Love it. Yeah. And I think, going forward, you're going to love that book, Josh. I'm
about to get it today.
Yeah. 12-week year, you guys, going to change your life. So go pick it up at your local library. Go support them.
I definitely will. Definitely will.
Josh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Honestly, this has been the best way, I think, to wrap up 2022 and put a bow on it. I know you and I had a lot we did together this year and accomplished, but I'm just, so proud of everything you continue to do, continue to inspire, and I can't wait to see what you're going to do in 2023. You're just starting the engine here, my friend.
Well, thank you, and same to you. Same to you. I love what you do with Rebranded Athlete, and I told you this many a times that bar business I think is one of the best ideas I've ever heard of. So I love watching you grow, and like I said, you're inspiration and you're inspiring. So keep up the great work and keep up everything. I'm looking forward to seeing what you're doing in the coming year, and I hope everyone has a great holiday season. Be safe and travels and things, and finish the year off strong.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Josh. And if anybody here wants to connect with you, where's the best place that they can get a hold of you?
Honestly, on social media, LinkedIn or Instagram, probably what I do the most is learn #2 cope. So learn #2 cope. And then my website is joshcopelandspeaks.com.
Check out that new website he has.
Yeah, I hired somebody to do that, so I'm excited about that one. So joshcopelandspeaks.com or learn2cope, and that's where you can find me.
Awesome. All right, Josh. Well, thanks so much for joining. And those of you guys who have been listening, we've had some people who've been here the entire time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. And again, this is the last episode of 2022. I'll be announcing the next dates coming up soon when we get back in the new year. But Happy New Year, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. And we'll catch you next time on the Rebranded Athlete Podcast. Take care.
See ya.